board.
I wouldn't eliminate any of the jobs. If anything, we need to add at least one more job up there. Somebody needs to be in charge of curriculum and instruction. I think that nobody that is there now, not that they're not capable of doing it, it's that they're stretched to their limits. We have, since I started here in 1973, we've done nothing but cut at the central office, and I don't think we can afford to cut anymore. And they're definitely not overstaffed, and as I said, they need to have at least one more person up there.
Thank you. Mr. Miller?
I don't know enough to comment one way or the other. What I do know is that this was an issue that was raised in the survey of the public opinion survey that my wife and Michelle Jeffers and I conducted after the 2016 school levy failed. We did a public survey involving teachers and school employees and a random sample of the voters from the 2016 election to find out why they thought the school levy failed. And the overwhelming issue was, both for people who supported the levy and didn't, was they felt that the levy proposal failed because of a general lack of trust in the board and the board office to manage money and to spend money wisely. I did not have any idea that that was coming because having just moved here a few years ago, I didn't know that there was, a long history of poor relations between the community and the board. But it came out in the answers to the questionnaire that we received, and we reported that, and that's really the basis of why I'm running, and why I think that the whole the issue of the staffing was one of the issues that people raised as a matter of trust. And I think that there isn't enough information, reliable information, to know how to answer that. And so one of the things that I would look to do on board would be to form some kind of a working group to study that issue and come to a public conclusion about what the staffing pattern should be and whether it is overstaffed or not.
Thank you. Ms. Hefner.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Sure. Given that many of the administrators working in the school central office perform numerous roles that are filled by hiring additional employees in other school districts, do you feel that our school system's central office is overstaffed and underworked? And if so, which specific central office jobs would you recommend be eliminated if you were a board member?
Well, I am a board member, and I don't recommend that we eliminate any. I think that they are definitely overworked and underpaid. Unfortunately, that's not the case with a lot. However, with that being said, I can't tell you specifically how many jobs each person holds, but I do know that it's a lot, and I know that they work very, very hard at doing all of those jobs and doing them well. At what rate do we continue to put this on them? And I mean, you can only do so much for one person. So no, I would like to. I mean, we're down 3 from 5 years ago, I think. I don't know that is a fact. I can check my numbers, but no, I think that it takes a lot to do what we are requiring them to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Burns.
And I don't have enough statistics to really make good comments here tonight on this particular question, but I feel like that I wouldn't want to see any cuts made. There's people are hurting for jobs. I never like to see cuts being made, but if I do, fortunate enough to get elected onto the Board of Education, then maybe I can learn a little bit more about what each one of them does, how many hours that they put in, the salaries that they're making, and then I can make a better judgment call at that particular time. But sitting here tonight, I would not recommend any cuts to be made.
Thank you, Mr. Dilly.
As for cuts, no, I would not recommend cuts. I've heard this before about the salaries. I don't know salaries and stuff specifically towards each person, but while salaries are important, I think we need to look at, are the jobs getting done that should be getting done by the people. In some instances, maybe some people have too many jobs, and maybe some of the jobs aren't completely getting complete or finished how they should. Having said that, though, also, if you take a job away from somebody, you're going to have to add on another person. So you would be actually increasing your office. And doing that, you'd have to bump up the salary for that person and also provide insurance. So if you were to add or take a job away from somebody to add somebody else in there to doing it, you also got to look at the cost of that. As I stated, I don't know salary specifically, but I think we need to look at, are the jobs getting done that need to be getting done.
Thank you, Mr. Gibson.
I think the world of our executive staff. I would not vote to cut any jobs. I don't know what they make. I don't care what they make. Our Mr. Beam is an expert on state and federal policy. Mrs. Bland is an expert on, her email, she has like 6 titles underneath her name. Sherry Ratcliffe could very well be the smartest woman in America. Mr. Hall, they all multitask like crazy in there, and I feel very well served as a taxpayer in the county and what they do for us. I think we need to get them some help. Quite frankly, they need more help.
Thank you, Mr. Grimes.
They've been 3 people left the board office for one reason or another one in the last 3 years. When the last superintendent left and Mr. Beam moved up, we never replaced Mr. Beam's position. He is still doing that job. To give you a little bit of reference of how much mistrust that they claim they are, I think it's misinformation. I had a school secretary call me and tell me that a secretary in the central office made $47,000 a year. And I said, where do I apply? If I know Miss Hollingsworth remembers that, and maybe John was old enough at that time, John Burns, to remember this, but whenever we used to have a guy on the board long before me that published this whenever this come up in the Pocahontas Times. He put all the teachers' salaries in there and all the superintendent's salaries, and I thought this was going to be a riot. I hate kids in school. Nobody wanted their salaries published because then everybody could look to see what they was making. It is public information. You can walk into the board office, and they might charge you a nickel a page or 10 cents a page or whatever they charge you, but you can get any bit of information that you want. You don't have to file a Freedom of Information. It is public knowledge for anybody there. Now, we've made some cuts. We had a curriculum coordinator for 2 years under Title VII, but whenever that funding run out, we don't have it anymore. We had the young lady that was there, Miss Smith, was terrific. And then Mr. Bennett from Mornington Middle School had come down, and they done some great things. I would love to see that that funding come back so we could get that, because Mrs. Hollingsworth is absolutely right. We truly need that in our central office. Tim, to answer your question, a lot of the larger counties do have one person doing the job for each one because they got a lot more children. We have 1,029 kids. We can't afford to pay Social Security and the taxes and every retirement and everything that comes with that. Thank you.